definitions are different. But both of them don't want to fall into bid'ah. This is the irony that both groups seem to ignore about the other group, right? The both of them do not want to practice bid'ah, correct? If you were to ask a Salafi, do you want to practice bid'ah? Of course not. You ask a Sufi, do you want to fall into bid'ah? Of course not. They don't want to do bid'ah. The both of them want to follow the sunnah. But the ikhtilaf comes in their definitions of sunnah and bid'ah. And these ikhtilaf, to be honest, they go back more than 1,000 years. They go back for a very long time. And you do have trends in Islam that might have justified certain actions and other trends that might have gone against it. Standard example, which is really a hallmark example, is the Mawlid. Now, the Mawlid is a very controversial issue in some parts of the world. I have my personal position, and I personally do not celebrate the Mawlid personally, because I think it is safer to, in this regard, be literalistic. At the same time, I have to be fair and honest, and point out that Ibn Hajar, for example, a scholar that I greatly admire and look up to, said that it is permissible to celebrate the Mawlid as long as certain things are allowed. That, certain things are not done. So, for example, excessive praise of the Prophet or intermixing. In some mawlids in those times there might have been some men and women dancing together. So this is haram. Of course it's haram because that's happening. But he allowed celebrating the mawlid with these conditions. Now, do I respect Ibn Hajar? Wallahi, I respect him. Do I agree with this particular fatwa? With my greatest respect, I disagree. Now, imagine Ibn Hajar was in front of me right now. And imagine he celebrated the mawlid. What should I do? Spit on his face? Hate him because... Think. The one who's celebrating the Mawlid, who is he looking up to in terms of scholarship? The same people I look up to. So if you're not going to hate their teachers, why are you going to hate them? If you're not going to look down at their teachers, why are you looking down at them? Somebody's following Imam al-Ghazali in an issue. Wallahi, if Imam al-Ghazali was sitting here, I'd be at his feet taking notes. Wallahi, this is the reality. Even if I disagree with minor issues here and there, but Ghazali is Ghazali, Hujjat al-Islam, one of the greatest minds the Ummah has seen. I might personally have more sympathy, let's say, for Ibn Taymiyyah. That's my personal bias. But would I reject Imam al-Ghazali, not go and visit him if he came to Singapore because, astaghfirullah, he wants to celebrate the Mawlid? Let's get real here. If you're not going to do this to Imam al-Ghazali, why are you doing it to the followers of Imam al-Ghazali? You see my point here, right? So, just because you have a position doesn't mean you have to enforce it on the other person. I still personally do not embrace celebrating the Mawlid, but I don't look down upon the one who chooses to. I don't hate the one who chooses to. I respectfully disagree. Respectfully, wallahi, respectfully. I know for a fact that the people who celebrate the Mawlid are doing so because they want to love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How can I disagree with that sentiment, with that emotion? I might disagree with the fine manifestation, how it's done. But how can I disagree with the fact he wants to show love to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Goes back to my example. There's a big difference between you believe in the text but how you interpret it versus you don't care about the text. And so when it comes to these issues, and you're asking a question that wallahi requires an entire class, what are the definitions of bid'ah? Because the whole point is that the Salafis and the Sufis, let me be very explicit, or I should be more precise, some of the scholars of the Bida'ah versus other scholars of the Bida'ah, because these differences go back to madhabs and fiqh. You have, for example, the Tulab al-Ilm here should know this, you have the Maliki scholar Tartushi, for example, hardcore against these types of things. And he wrote many books about warning against tahdeem and bid'ah and whatnot. If you read his books, even though he's Maliki and somewhat even open to other interpretations, he's hardcore, almost Salafi in his interpretation of bid'ah, right? And then you have others whose aqidah is more close to Salafi, yet they're allowing. So Ibn Hajar, for example, is a good example, that he's actually very close to the Athari creed in many things, yet he will allow celebration of the Mawlid. So the point is that the definition of bid'ah between these two schools is different. And both of them want to avoid changing the Sharia. Both of them want to follow the Sunnah. They differ what is the line of following the Sunnah. And from the perspective of those who don't celebrate the Mawlid, they say if the Prophet didn't do it, then we should not do it. And that's a valid point. The other group says not everything the Prophet did not do, we do not do. For example, compiling the Muslim, they will say. There's a goal, that's the preservation of the Quran. So how you get to the goal can differ. That's their perspective. Right? I'm quoting them. The goal is to respect the Prophet. How you get to that is different. So for some people, they say doing a mawlid is